Hi guys, welcome back. I've got another flashlight review for you today, and it's a brand that I have not looked at before. It is a Jetbeam, and this is the E26 Kunai. You can see the spelling there written just under the clip. So we'll go through the spec of this. I'll tell you what I think. Obviously it's a wedge style form factor, which you guys know I like. I've reviewed some of these types of form factors in the past from both Surefire, Streamlight, Olight. You know, all the major companies have this type of form factor. This one caught my attention because of the high lumen output that it's advertised with. I've seen a couple of adverts out there. I saw one with about 1800 lumens advertised and one with over 2000. I think one even said 3000. I'm not entirely sure if there are different options available. I have what appears to be the version that can output 1800 lumens max. That is still huge. You know, most people would consider 1000 lumens to be more powerful than they actually need, so 1800 seems to be a lot, and I'll go into that in a second. But this has some interesting modes to it as well. I do actually like this. I'll get that out of the way first. You know, as I've said before, I don't review things that I don't actually like, and I did like some of the features on this one. So let's take a look. I mean, the first feature that I like, and we've seen flashlights with this kind of feature before, but it actually has a dial which is kind of clicky. You can feel it definitely clicking into place with your fingers, so it's nice and easy to manipulate, easy to push around. It has a kind of knurling on the outside which makes it nice and grippy. In the first mode, it's simply a locking mode. Now, not only does this act as a dial, but it also acts in the middle as a button. You can probably hear it clicking there. It's quite a pleasing click to it, and it's relatively well made. I mean, if you have a look at the, you know, the knurling and the engineering on this, it's nicely put together, anodized alloy. But back to this switch on the side, in that first setting it is locked, so if we press it, nothing happens at all. And that's obviously for when you're carrying it around. If you've got it in a pocket or a backpack, you don't want it coming on, because as I've said before, some of these flashlights, especially the high power ones, they can get really hot. So nice to see that. If we then dial it round to the second setting, like so, you can probably hear that click round there. And then if we press the button again, so we're just clicking this and it comes on. That's in its lowest setting. If we hold it down, it starts getting brighter and brighter, right up to its apparently highest setting. So it goes 15 lumens, which for me, I would have preferred maybe 1 or 5 lumens, like a, you know, a moonlight mode. 15 lumens, it's certainly more than enough for, you know, operating inside a tent, but it might be too much if you just want something on over a long period of time, just enough to sort of see your way around and not disturb anyone else at night. But 15 still useful. And then we step up, and it's quite a instant step up to then 300 lumens. So that would be my next kind of, not a complaint, but just a mild kind of irk with it, is that we're going from 15 to 300. I would have personally liked to see like 1 or 5 lumens, stepping up to 15, then maybe to 100, and so on. But then we're getting into quite a few different phases of light there, and then it, you know, you can have so many kind of modes on there that it just becomes a bit cumbersome to operate. But then after that we step up again and we're doubling to 650 lumens, and then last of all we go to our 1800 lumens. Now this has a 1700 milliamp battery, which is a good size battery, should give you plenty of runtime. So in this 15 lumen mode, it gives you 65 hours, which is absolutely awesome. 300 lumens is giving us 3.5 hours. Bump it up again, we've got our 650 lumens, that's coming in at 1.7 hours, and then we bump it up again, and the 1800 is apparently giving us 1.6 hours. Now there is a slight caveat to that, that in those higher lumen settings the torch actually will dial itself down over time, and we've seen that in a number of other flashlights. It's a good safety feature. That's not a complaint at all. I actually want it to do that. The last thing I need on an 1800 lumen flashlight is for it to stay at 1800 lumens for any protracted period of time. You know, if it starts dialing itself down after a while, that's because it's getting super hot, and it's basically either going to melt itself or it's going to start setting fire to things around it, which I don't want. I also don't want it to roast my hand or my pocket or my skin near my pocket when I put it back in there. We also have a tail switch which gives you automatic access to that 1800 lumen setting, and you can obviously use that in a more kind of tactical manner. And then if you double tap the tail switch, you've got the strobe, which I won't keep on because that will do someone's head in. I don't particularly like strobes on lights, but if you needed to make an emergency signal, they are useful because, as I said before, you know, a single light in the distance isn't really going to attract much attention. So then we bump this switch round again, and if we hit that, you probably can't see it. I'll hold up a bit of white paper. In fact, here's the product manual, and you can see there we have some UV light on there. So that is very useful to me. I use UV light for curing sealants. You know, there's specific sealants that are UV cured, certainly on ammunition and stuff like that. That can be really useful. Also very useful for looking and seeing if I've actually got a good ring of that sealant on there, you know, if I've got a sufficient coating all the way around, because you can easily see the sealant under the UV. It can also be useful to spot stains and stuff like that. If you're going into a hotel room and you flash a UV light around over the curtains and the bed and stuff like that, it can be pretty gross, but that will give you a really good idea of if you want to stay in that room or not, if it's been cleaned properly, let's put it that way. And there's certainly been some hotel rooms I've done that in which I kind of regretted afterwards because it was absolutely disgusting. And then last but not least, we have the laser, which I'll be a bit careful with. I don't want to shine that right into the camera. I'll shine it at my chest. I don't even think that we're picking it up too well. It is actually a really good laser. And the only reason I would use this is if I was doing some kind of discussion about products or something, and I was doing it to a group of people. I like to use a laser then to kind of pick points behind me on a board. I also like to use it to drive my dog mental, and I just point it at the floor and he chases it around like a lunatic. You have to be really careful with lasers, obviously, because you don't want to be shining them in people's eyes. You don't want to shine it in your pet's eye. You don't want to shine it in your own eye. Same goes for UV. There are health risks attributed to both UV and lasers, so they're not things that you want to shine particularly on yourself. You don't want to shine them in your own eyes, and you don't want to shine them in anyone else's eyes. And also beware, you know, if you're shining them at vehicles and stuff like that, you're probably committing a criminal offence, especially with the laser. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I do know that people have gone to prison for quite substantial periods of time for shining lasers at things like helicopters. I mean, why anyone would want to do that is beyond me, but it's happened in the UK. People have gone to prison, so don't be an idiot if you're buying one of these and you're utilising the laser function. The laser reaches right down to the end of my garden without any issues. In fact, it reaches over to the barn, which is about 70 or 80 metres away. I don't think it's going to be able to, you know, present any real issues for air traffic and stuff. I'm guessing they are some sort of super powerful lasers that people get hold of, but still be careful nonetheless. The laser is putting out 5 megawatts and the UV is putting out 1,300 megawatts. You've got a 15-hour runtime on the laser, a 3-hour runtime on the UV. We have a pocket clip there, which I actually quite like. It's nice and solid, sprung steel, and again, as I've mentioned before on pocket clips, I hate it when they've got all the knurling around them. It's got a nice smooth surface behind it, and then it's just got a little sort of V notch there, so it does keep itself where it should be. If you're putting it in a pocket or something like that, then it doesn't tend to move too much. Obviously the form factor is ideal. If you slide that into your trouser pocket, it is quite long, bear that in mind. You'd have to have a fairly lengthy pocket, which on cargo pants and stuff, that's not going to be an issue. If you're wearing jeans or something, you might find that a little long, it's going to poke out the top a bit. Form factor wise, it's nice and comfortable to wear. I like the knurling down each side, adds a bit of grip and just kind of nice to see. It also comes in the box with a little lanyard, so you've got a lanyard hole up there, and obviously it comes with a charger as well, quite standard. You can see the box there, quite a nice box that it comes in. Got all the gubbins in there, magnetic close, always nice to see. I hate those blister packs that flashlights tend to come in, where you literally have to cut them open with a pair of scissors. Much nicer to receive something in a sort of magnetic flappy box. It's just a pleasure to open those. To charge that 1700 milliamp hour battery, you've got the USB-C on the side there, and you've got a little indicator which does the usual kind of red green blinking stuff, telling you how much charge you've got left in the flashlight. You can see there we've got a green light on it, which is over 35%, 35 to 100. If that were to go orange, it means it's between 15 and 35% charged, and if it goes red, then it's less than 15% charge. So you can always get an easy view on that just by flicking the switch on and off like so. It does have, it's hardly noticeable, it's kind of difficult to see, you can probably see them on here, these little ceramic beads on the front. Now it talks about those being glass breakers. They're very, very small indeed. They may well help you somewhat break glass. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's a pretty solid thing anyway, so I'm pretty sure if you slam the corner of that into whatever glass you were hitting, you're going to do some significant damage to that glass anyway. And if it was ultra secure glass, I'm doubting that beads of that size are going to make a huge difference. You know, they're, like I said, they're very shallow on there. I'd like to see them maybe a bit bigger if I was someone that was bothered about glass breakers on torches. I'm not particularly. I don't think that's got really a huge use case to it. I think a lot of people associate the kind of aggressive glass breakers on the front of torches as being undercover language for actually a kind of weaponized torch that they're going to be able to utilize in the street. I think it's the sort of thing that like massively overweight mall ninjas that sit at home, you know, brandishing their eBay flashlights or whatever and imagining in their minds that they would be able to defeat various dangerous street enemies with it, and it's just pure fantasy. Like, you know, if you really want to defeat people in the street that are going to attack you, for God's sake, learn to do it yourself, because suddenly carrying a flashlight with something on the end of it isn't really going to do you any favours. These things retail, I've seen them going for between $80 or £80 up to about 130, depending on where you get them. I'll chuck a couple of links below so you guys can order them direct. Let me know what you think. The beam throw on these is excellent. You know, it does throw out a lot of light. I can't measure it, obviously I don't have that kind of equipment. I'm not entirely sure if it's putting out exactly 1800 lumens. Like I said, that is a hell of a lot of light, but it's certainly a deal brighter than any of the other 1000 lumen lights I've got. So if you're looking for something that's thrown out high power, this will certainly do that. The beam it throws is decent, you know, it's not blotchy or anything like that. It throws a nice clear beam and it's definitely usable. You know, it's got a pretty long range to it as well. I would say it's probably one of the longest ranges in the like handheld flashlights that I've used. So certainly high power. I can't verify if it's exactly that lumen rating. You know, I know people will want to know that. Is it 1800? I don't know, but it's certainly enough bright for me. If you're looking for a high lumen output, reasonably priced flashlight that's pretty well made, I would suggest getting one of these. There are obviously other options that I review on here as well. There's plenty of stuff that I review from Woburn, which is fantastic. I would say the Woburn quality is of a higher standard, but I have yet to review a Woburn light that's putting out quite as much light as this. They do a couple, and in the future I plan to review those as well, so we can maybe give a bit of a comparison at that point. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. I'll catch you all next time.